Statistics South Africa's quarterly labor force survey confirms trends showing that young and black people are the most affected by unemployment. The official joblessness rate is at a record high of 34.4%. The expanded definition, which includes those who have been discouraged, this is in terms of looking for work, has increased to 44.4%. Let me welcome onto the platform tonight the Assembly of the Unemployed activist Siyabulela Mama, ANC Youth League National Task Team Convener Nonceba Mhlauli, and the Youth Capitals Policy and Learning Manager Meyer. Good evening to all of you, and let me thank you so much for your time. It's a crisis, whichever way one looks at it, and perhaps in your own words, Nonceba, I'll begin with you. What do you see when it comes to these unemployment numbers?
Good evening, Kathy, and good evening to the fellow panelists. We've always characterized the youth unemployment numbers in particular as a pandemic on its own. And we've always said that we want to see the kind of, drastic response that we saw to the COVID-19 pandemic, the same sort of, drastic measures being employed to ensure that you deal with the youth unemployment numbers. What is actually of the greatest concern right now is that you actually have a cohort of young people who are leaving the youth bracket without actually having been employed. This means that those young people have zero assets. It means that they have no retirement savings, and it obviously will mean that in the long run, after they've left the youth bracket, they will inadvertently become, more dependent on the state for their social security. And that in itself is even a greater crisis, because you have young people who are currently unemployed, and then you have those that are leaving the youth bracket with no work, no retirement, no assets, and in the long run, possibly also furthering sort of their dependence, or having to depend rather on the state for social security. So it really is a pandemic. Youth unemployment in this country is a pandemic on its own.
Siyabulela?
Look, it's quite very devastating, and we always surprised by the numbers. South Africa has to be understood as the highest country that has a mass unemployment in the world and amongst emerging economies. And I want to put it out that we must scrap out the narrow definition of unemployment, because it hides the face of the real crisis. And we must actually use the expanded definition of unemployment as the actual unemployment. And I think that's a very important point to also put forward. We've always, as the Assembly of the Unemployed, made the point that the cut in government spending, the budget cuts, even now, the freezing or the cuts within the public sector wage bill will lead to joblessness. And as you see joblessness, you also see a rise in high income inequality in an already an unequal country in the world. And we have always made that point, and that's starting to now manifest itself. And, Kathy, also in understanding the SA's unemployment crisis, you have to also understand the shift, the structural shift to financialization, as we have seen more and more companies now investing in the financial sectors, and this has led to deindustrialization. And those are the things that we are now starting to see, and they're starting to manifest themselves within this high unemployment crisis that we face, because you find now when young people are leaving school, they don't have work to go to. And so we need to think about reindustrialization. We need to think about a low carbon reindustrialization, because we face this climate crisis as well.
Sure. Mario, let me bring you in and give you a chance perhaps just to also give me your reflections on the state of those numbers.
Thanks, Kathy, and good evening. As Sia has mentioned, the youth unemployment rate in South Africa is one of the highest, if not the highest, in the world. So we truly do have a rather big challenge on our hands. And at Youth Capital, we believe that addressing the issue of unemployment in South Africa must specifically mean addressing the issue of youth unemployment, because unemployment in South Africa mostly affects young people, as shown again in today's quarterly labor force survey. And so we advocate that we need a focused and shared agenda across South African society to address this issue of youth unemployment. There are multiple overall plans that we have in South Africa. We feel we don't particularly have a very focused plan to address youth unemployment that tackles, it's a multifaceted issue, and so it needs to be tackled from multiple prongs. And so we believe that we need an action plan that addresses the issue holistically, but also in a very focused manner. And that's why we advocate for a 10-point plan to address youth unemployment that focuses on what we think are 10 specific leverage points that, if we address those specific areas, would help to shift gears on the high number of youth unemployment.
Much of what has been said in terms of fundamentally changing the outcome or the outlook of the unemployed in this country, the youth amongst them, is that we need structural changes. We need structural reform to the economy that make it easier for business to actually do business in this country and to invest in the country. Nonceba, what are your views on that? Just the cause for the structural reform, but also, what are the things that you think have not been done, that if they could have been done, we would not be in the situation that we're in today?
So firstly, Kathy, if you look at, if you go anywhere in the country, right, whether it's in a township, in a rural area, in an urban area, you will find a young person with a skill. You will find a young person who knows how to fix a TV. You will find a young person who knows how to fix a car. You will find a young person who knows how to lay a brick. You will find young people with skills. What is the problem? The problem is that those young people are sitting with skills that are not accredited. They're sitting with skills that, outside of the small piece job that they would, get in the township or here and there, they actually can't, make lots of money from those skills, because those skills are not accredited. It means that a young person who knows how to lay a brick, can't be used by a Nonceba when she wants, to build a house. And we think that there's a major gap in that. We think that if you were to actually have a program in South Africa where you just say all young people with existing skills, you mass accredit all of those skills, you would really, really be drastically shifting, the economic sort of trajectory of those young people, because now it means that they can actually use their skills for their economic empowerment. We also have young people.
Sorry to come in there, Nonceba. Is that not part of what the SETAs are supposed to be doing, to help accredit the skills of young people and take them through some kind of formal training? And that is something that, of course, private business and the state subsidize. So is it not happening at the scale that it should be happening?
Which is why we are calling for a mass accreditation of the skills. We're not calling, we're not talking about a 5 young people there, 10 young people there, etc. We're talking about literally going out into townships and saying to young people, you go to Soweto, for an example, and you just literally, if there are young people who are able to prove that they do have those particular skills, that can go to any TVET that's close by, they get this, they literally just have to demonstrate that they have the skill, they get the certificate without having to go through a whole 2 or 3 years within the system. We're talking about doing this at a mass scale, because currently what you have, and you are correct, the programs that you have, your SETAs, the various training programs that you have, are so limited that they actually are not having the kind of impact that we would want them to have. For an example, you don't need to spend 2 years at a TVET college to learn how to sew. You can learn how to sew within 3 months. So why do you have to go through, a process of, a system that would need you to do something for 2 years when actually you can do it within 3 months and get the certificate and open your own CMT for that matter. So those are the kind of things that we're talking about, doing those practical projects at a mass scale that will be able to immediately have an impact in the lives of young people in terms of youth empowerment.
Siya, when we look at the state of the situation right now, and as somebody who again is representing the Assembly of the Unemployed, what does it practically mean for the lives of young people in this country? What does it mean for those that are part of your organization and who have been unemployed for the longest time?
So it means more pressure. It means more poverty, more unemployment, more inequality. It means that people will now the poverty gap will increase, and that's why we've put many alternatives at the fore. And so and what we've actually been saying is that the South African economy is focused on mining and agriculture, which are actually extractive, and so what we're calling for is a low carbon reindustrialization that would focus on manufacturing and taxing the rich, I think. And we've also, a group of researchers have came up with a study that if you tax between the 3% to the 7% of the rich people, you could actually get about 165 billion per annum. AIDC has came out with a research report of that there's actually profit shifting, and it's causing the South African economy 300 billion. And that's the money that can be used for this low carbon reindustrialization in manufacturing renewable energies and whatnot. And what we've also saying is that constitutionalize the right to work. The basic income grant of 1,500 that we are calling for should come with a right to work, because people want to work. They want jobs, but there are no jobs. They actually have the skills, but the economy, the structure of the economy itself doesn't allow people to have jobs, no matter what skill do you have, as we have seen how 2.8 million workers have lost their jobs. So the expansion of the EPWP program is also an important factor into this, in sourcing EPWP workers, in sourcing of workers. So these are the points that we're raising.
All right.
And yeah.
Let me just give Mario an opportunity to perhaps weigh in, at that point that you're making, constitutionalize the right to work in this country. As we sit, Mario, there'll be many young people who are disillusioned, who have a sense of helplessness, rightfully so, and even hopelessness about their future in this country. What do you say to those people tonight?
It's quite a tough one, Kathy, putting me on the spot a little bit. Part of what I would say is that we need, as I mentioned earlier, a collective approach to addressing the challenge, and it's expecting a lot of young people individually or as groups of individuals to turn around a situation that, as has been mentioned, is structural. And so we do need structural changes. But in addition to that, and some of the structural changes that we need may take some time, we also need to maximize existing programs, existing initiatives like the CETAs, like public employment programs, like the employment tax incentive as examples, to increase the available opportunities for young people. So the programs like the ETI, the employment tax incentive, for example, there's scope there to increase employment opportunities by making sure that small and medium-sized businesses and non-profit organizations, civil society organizations, if they were able to access that money more easily, could then employ more people, particularly young people. So what I'd say is the challenge, we can't expect young people to solve it themselves, but also say we need young people to also advocate for change and for solutions that work, so that our response to addressing youth unemployment should be grounded in the lived experiences, the challenges that young people face, so that the solutions actually address those particular challenges, rather than being somewhat pie in the sky and not addressing the realities on the ground for young people. Sure. And so, as young people, we should advocate for solutions that work for us.
Mario Meyer, he is with Youth Capital. Nonceba Mhlauli is with the ANC Youth League. She's the National Task Team Convener. And Siyabulela Mama is from the Assembly of the Unemployed.